Proof and detection dogs is something we talk about a lot of times when we're describing and discussing the whole process of training detection dogs. It was touched on a earlier video just briefly, but I wanted to take a minute to spend some time to kind of really give a better explanation of what we're talking about when we use the term proofing. I think there are a lot of misconceptions about proofing. I think the term is used to describe certain parts of what we're doing, but doesn't really describe effectively the entire process that we really need to go to ensure the utmost operational efficacy and to reduce false responses and NPRs. Proofing primarily, when we discuss proofing, a lot of people think about the olfactory aspect of proofing. And what I mean by the olfactory aspect of proofing is, simply put, we're teaching the dog target, and we're teaching them that these certain smells or odors or scents simply mean nothing, right? So we would put out drug or explosive odor, for example, for those drug and bomb dogs, and then we may put out dog food, for example. So we're just simply teaching the dog, this target odor is correct, dog food is incorrect, and won't allow you to get reinforcement. I think when we talk about proofing, that's what most people consider. However, it is our belief that proofing goes well beyond the olfactory aspect of proofing. I think our focus on the olfactory standpoint probably is derived from the focus of our work, and that is detection. But again, I think so much more needs to go into it. I think proofing probably is one of the more critical steps, just like our initial imprinting, that we need to really have a solid plan for, to make sure that we're reaching our operational objectives. So when we talk about proofing, primarily we're going to talk about four different things. That olfactory proofing, right? Target produces reinforcement, other novel odors do not, is an important part of that. However, there are three other incredibly important parts that we also need to take some time to talk about. So one of those is auditory, right? What the dog hears. When we talk about proofing, we're really going to kind of consider all the dog's senses and all of the stimulus inputs, right, that this dog is getting to be able to effectively make decisions about what the correct answer is and what an incorrect answer is. So it's important for us, again, to look at that olfactory proofing. We're going to look at auditory proofing, what the dog's hearing. We're going to look at visual proofing, what the dog is seeing. And then we're going to look at physical stimulus as well. And that can come in a lot of different forms, and I'll sort of break these down just briefly in this video. So again, the olfactory proofing we've talked about. This odor produces reinforcement, this one does not. Auditory, what is the dog hearing? Handlers oftentimes are doing way too much talking to dogs, and that is information that the dog can take in order to make decisions at certain times during their work, whether it be in training or in an operational environment. So we're gonna use that. We're gonna kind of control that, and we're gonna develop a training process that creates significant unreliability around that particular stimulus. And that's what we want to do with all of this. We want to create unreliability with all sorts of stimulus, with the exception of target. And by doing that, the dog will learn pretty quickly that the only thing that they can rely on in order to produce reward or reinforcement is simply that target odor, right? Because all of this other stimulus is going to become simply meaningless. Now, when we talk about proofing is the very deliberate and intentional act of teaching the dog to find target and to disregard any other stimulus in their environment. So that's an important part for us to remember. So again, we've covered olfactory proofing. We've talked a little bit about auditory proofing, what the dog hears. That may be feet shuffling. That could be a chain jingling. It could be a handler talking. It could be a number of things. Next, we're going to move into visual, right? Visual proof. What is the dog seeing in their environment, right? Visual proofing is also incredibly important. What happens when a dog's working and they see, for example, and then going back to auditory too, what if they see and hear a reward item, for example, in the operational search area, right? We've seen this before where dogs go into, for example, schools. The dog's usual reinforcement maybe is a tennis ball, and we walk into some middle or elementary school where every single chair in a room has tennis balls on the legs of every chair in the room, right? That's going to create a lot of issues for those dogs, and we've seen that take place in the past. So, again, that visual stimulus, we've got to teach the dog that visual stimulus is meaningless and is not going to produce reward. The last one we touched on was physical, right? That can come in a lot of different forms too. It can come from the handler accidentally bumping into the dog. It can come from leash pressure. It can come in lots of different forms. And again, it's something we want to intentionally put into our training to ensure that the dog is going to ignore that information and all those inputs and make the correct decision when it comes to target odor. So again, proofing is something that we need to make sure that we're integrating into every single training session. Again, it's very deliberate. Oftentimes we hear people say, that by just simply using new environments and using new areas, that there are going to be those olfactory proofing aids there, right? They're going to be markers and potentially Ziploc bags and other odors that just happen to be in the area. Unfortunately, when it comes to proofing, that's simply not good enough, right? We have to have a really clear plan in order to proof these dogs. We have to be deliberate about what it is that we're trying to accomplish in each training session, and we have to make sure that we're putting out things and introducing things, again, all for olfactory, auditory, visual, and physical into every single training session that we do with these dogs to ensure that not only we're creating the reliability to target and the unreliability to that other stimulus, but that we're maintaining that over a period of time in this dog's operational life.